Learn from my mistake. Are you tired of hearing the same old advice when it comes to real estate? Do you want to learn from the biggest and baddest mistakes in the industry? Then welcome to Learn from My Mistake, the podcast that brings you real estate professionals from all over, sharing the biggest blunders and how to avoid them. I'm one of your hosts, Jake Remillard, and I'm joined by my partner, Marie Baginski. We're here to give you the inside scoop on what not to do in the real estate game. From brokers to investors, we've got it all. We're not just here to tell you about our guest failures, though. We're here to help you learn from them so you can make the right moves when it counts. So buckle up and get ready to hear some juicy stories and expert advice you won't find anywhere else. This is Learn from My Mistake. New episodes drop every week. Don't miss out. Learn from my
All right. We are live with our Learn from My Mistake podcast. So I'm one of your hosts, Marie Baginski, and my partner, Jake Remillard, is here. Say what's up, Jake.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Super excited for episode 11 with Forrest Blackburn.
Yes.
Hey, guys.
So our guest this week, Forrest Blackburn, you've had quite a career so far in real estate and worked with some of the top big names. So I would like you to just give everybody a little intro, a little snippet, if you would, on like who you are and what you've done so far in real estate and business.
Wow. Sure. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm honored to be on the podcast. And Marie, you're one of my favorite people. Every time we get together with Avengers, it's always great to see you. You came out for Deal Exchange that we have at our event center here at Cody Sperber's campus.
Yeah.
And I think I was on stage and happened to see you, and I stopped everything I was saying to say hi because it's always good to see you. But yeah, so I've been through a lot of chapters in my business career. As far as real estate's concerned, I bought my first flip when I was 19 years old. I was an actor previous to that, and so I'd saved up some cash, and then I had a little bit of inheritance. So I rubbed that together and paid cash for a house in Burbank, California, and rehabbed that, lived in it for a while, and then sold that on a 1031 exchange into some condominiums in Orange County, California, and sat on those for a little while. And rented them out for a little bit. And then I sold them and took all the money that I had made and put it into a record label and lost it all. So that was, if we want to talk about mistakes, if I could go back in time and kick myself in the ass, I would. But I wasn't, I'm fourth generation real estate. My dad was a commercial developer, and his father and father before that were in commercial real estate all the way back into the Depression. So real estate's always been in my blood, and I grew up, walking large pieces of land as a small kid with my dad, and really learning creative finance from a commercial side of things and land development side of things was really what I had kind of ingrained in my mind early on. But I ended up getting rid of that record label that I lost money on, and I signed to Capitol Records and as a rock and roll artist, and traveled the world having fun. Or at least that's what the pictures tell me. I don't remember. But it was a good time. And from there, I got into marketing. I started a marketing company. When I started dwindling down the band, I started doing marketing and advertising for Capitol Records. And my attorney at the time, my entertainment attorney, was the vice president of Paramount Pictures. And he brought me over to Paramount, and I started doing marketing for Paramount. But at the time, we were starting to lose a lot of the budget allocation for bus stops and billboards over to digital marketing with this new thing called Google and something new called SEO. So I kind of had my ear to the ground on that, and the UFC called, the Ultimate Fighting Championship called, and said, hey, we need a music supervisor, and you come highly recommended. So for a year, about 13 months, I was out in Las Vegas as the music supervisor for the UFC, and they gave me carte blanche to license any artist I wanted, and I confirmed that multiple times. And once I had that hard commit, I went ahead and licensed all my own music.
Nice.
Smartest thing I ever did. I still get mailbox money every quarter from the UFC.
Awesome.
There's well over 200 pay-per-view fights and all their docuseries intros and outros. There's little snippets of my music here and there that get me onto those soundtracks and get me paid. But when that contract was up, I came back to Orange County, to Laguna Beach, and started working for a company in Irvine, learning this SEO stuff. And I learned very quickly that they were in a cash grab and not really willing to fulfill on the back end. So I left and started my own marketing company in 2009. and grew that from 7 agents to 1,500 reps nationwide and 17 franchises, and working with over 50,000 small and medium businesses. Developed over 50,000 websites for them, and full stack app development it graduated into. And I was also being a private consultant for a lot of Fortune 500 and 105,000 companies. And so I had my media kits out there and everything. Travelocity, Disney Cruise Lines, UPS, Keller Williams, 1-800-DENTIST. And I got a phone call from HGTV, and specifically the show Flip or Flop. And they needed to build a company behind the brand so that they could furnish content for all the shows. And even though there's 13 to 17 episodes that are filmed every season, they need about 30 minimum properties to be able to go through to find something that isn't just spit and polish, because that's not a good episode, something that has a lot of hurdles and a lot of drama. So when I came in to that company, they weren't really wholesale heavy. It's flip or flop. So I started leaning into wholesale because as a marketer, I need a fast cash churn because I need to be able to roll that money into marketing. So I lit up wholesale, and they went from about $40,000 a month in wholesale assignments. And within 5 months, we were up over $2 million a month consistently in wholesale and assignment fees. And working predominantly in Southern California, where there's big spreads, we were getting $250,000, $300,000 spreads. There was a $487,000 spread on a property in Bel Air. But that's how I was able to.
I just want to pause for 1 second, because if anyone didn't catch Jake's reaction, if you're just listening and you're not watching a video version of this podcast later, Jake is in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So properties don't even cost $250,000, Forrest. So
no, I get it.
$250,000 spread. Jake was just like, whoa.
It was like I was proud for you, but also like in pain for myself. My first assignment was like $5,000. I
get that. I mean, we work with Cody Sperber. I'm the director of sales and marketing for Cody Sperber's company, Green Elephant Development, and I'll get there in a minute and how that happened. But we work in 14 different states nationwide, and there's always a mixture that you have to do between volume and high quality deals to move the needle forward. And peppering in those big spreads definitely help move the needle and give me some bragging points. But there's always those $5,000, $8,000, $15,000, $20,000 assignment fees. It all comes down to your market. And, the first time that I actually joined Avengers, I had a lot of people talking to me about scaling and asking about scaling. And the first thing that they thought that they needed to do was scale up their acquisitions team and scale up their staff. But really, to scale your revenue, it oftentimes just comes down to your target audience, and it comes down to where you're working deals and where you're spending your time on marketing, and also not generating so much noise to burn out your sales team. If you have so many leads coming in that are low quality or small spreads, you're really chasing your tail to try and compete with some of these people that can talk about bigger numbers and bigger spreads. So for me, I'm always focused in, like I do a lot of deals in South Florida, enough that have huge spreads on them to be able to move that monthly revenue needle. And Southern California has always been my bag. I just locked up a property this morning in Beverly Hills Flats. It's worth about $16.8 million right now as it sits. It just has to have some green marble swapped out to some white marble or maybe black marble, depending on the buyer. But I got it locked up for $13.5 million. So this could potentially be the largest spread, because I'm going to take that property and put it directly on the MLS and look for cash buyers. Because when you're up in those price points, and those higher price points, number one, it's a much smaller competition pool, and they're not talking to very many wholesalers. But number two, it's a smaller buying pool, and that buying pool, they can do a wire transfer of $16.8 million. They're not getting funding. They're not getting financing. They're not worried about T's and I's being crossed with traditional funding. So it can move very quickly and generate, very high spreads for sure. So at any rate, HGTV contacted me. I got on the phone with Tarek El Moussa for about an hour and a half. He and his partner, Pete DeBest. And Pete did most of the talking, as Pete does. And I said, you don't need a consultant to be your CEO. That doesn't really work. And he said, no, we want to buy you. And I made the joke of saying, well, you better have a pen with a lot of ink. And they did. So I went from working with all of these different companies as a consultant to just working with one specific company and in the real estate space. And quickly found out that all of these blueprints that I'd done for all these other companies layered in perfectly into real estate. there's not a lot of corporate mentality, especially in wholesaling, but in the real estate game in general. And when you take a little bit of a corporate layer and layer it into, some of these businesses, these smaller businesses where maybe somebody got a really good assignment fee and they pop their collar and they say, great, I'm a business now. I'm going to open up an office and put a bunch of seats in there and spend money on marketing. They really don't know what they're doing other than to just spend money. So by making sure that people have their very concrete lanes and roles, and nobody steps out of those lanes and paints a target on their back trying to do somebody else's job, or is over inundated with tasks and daily chores, that's how you can really focus on KPIs and make sure that they're really adhering to their specific role and hitting all those key metrics to ensure that that each role is getting 100%. And if you're trying to do two jobs, we're only 100% human. The best you could do is offer 50% and 50%. And each one of those roles deserves 100%. The company deserves those roles outputting at 100%. Yeah. So layering in a corporate structure with meetings on Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays and one-on-one meetings with your reps. Those are things that I really find not only drives accountability, but there's a real sense of support that comes from the top at C-level positions, as well as your reps are feeling supported personally. You know why they're failing today, because something happened in their personal life yesterday. So being very in tune with your I look at everything like gears on a clock, and if one gear is off, the entire clock doesn't work. So, really keeping focus on all of those. And so I worked with Tarek for about 2 years, and the contract was coming to an end. And during that 2 years, I had a lot of people knocking on my door looking for guidance and looking for help, but my contract was exclusive. Yeah. So there was really nothing I could do about it. So I had a hard choice, and I stepped out of that role and said, I'm going to go serve other people and more people. And I had done some deals with Cody, and I knew Cody through Tarek. And, Cody and Bryant approached me and said, why don't you come work with us? And I was in California at the time. And so we worked out kind of a hybrid role where I'd spend 1 week here and 1 week in California. That worked for about 3 weeks until I was 2 weeks here and 2 weeks in California, and then 4 weeks here and 1 week in California. And now I'm pretty much here full time, and I've bought a bunch of property throughout the Phoenix area. And I have property in California still too. And I'm out there as often as I can so I can spend time with my 2 boys. But thank God for FaceTime. So now I'm working on development deals and land acquisition. It's a whole nother animal. And I've learned so much from proximity through, a lot of the connections that I've made. I don't know who said it, but your network is truly your net wealth. Yeah. And that's what's enabled me to get into now what I focus on is these multi-billion-dollar portfolio deals. And I've got, hotels and casinos, and I've got a beach resort in the Bahamas right now that I'm working on transacting. And there's a lot of spaghetti thrown at the wall to get one of those big deals to stick. But when they do, it's unbelievable money. Won $63.4 billion, and we're at a 0.5% commission on that. And 0.5%, most people say, how are you going to make money on that? But when it's $63 billion, it's amazing money. They're a little bit longer cycle, but what I'm learning from these conversations and being involved in these major discussions with people that put together multi-billion-dollar deals on a daily basis, again, has grown my acumen a lot. And I'm kind of the mindset, knowledge is power. We can make money, we can lose money, but when you gain knowledge, it never goes away. So absolutely. I try to surround myself with people that can, really grow my knowledge base and my network. So that's kind of it, all up to speed, grand level perspective. At 100 miles
I love it. I mean, listen, that was the short version, and it was still a 10-minute discussion, but that's okay because you've had tons of experience. I love that you went from, you said acting to music and real estate.
To marketing. There's a lot of chapters, Marie. There's so many chapters, so many different reinventions for sure.
I love, see, now it's not as awkward when I tell people that I started singing opera when I was 12 and went to high school for performing arts and then had an engineering career for 15 years and also real estate investor, right?
Yeah, but Marie, that's what makes you so damn interesting. Oh, Jake's showing off the axe. What do you got there, Jake?
It's a custom ESP.
Oh, love it. Yeah, I love it. I'm more of a rhythm guitar player. I play every instrument except drums, but shredding on a guitar is not something I'm more of a singer-songwriter. So, strumming and rhythm is really what I do on the guitar. And But yeah, dude, I've got a huge guitar collection that's collecting dust on the wall and in my home, kind of, we call it the fun room. It's loaded with guitars and rock and roll memorabilia.
Nice.
But yeah, they just collect dust and the strings get rusty, and I don't even have calluses on my fingers anymore, Jake.
Oh no, that's bad. That's when you know.
No, it's no good.
So, but tell me a little bit, how do you think that having kind of that mindset and maybe like the creativity that comes with like acting and music and things, like, do you think that that's affected your mindset and how you've approached business maybe a little bit differently than most people that are coming at it from just like, you know, a business background? I went to school and got my BA, right?
Sure. Well, I mean, you know, having the business chops from having a business degree is great in structure and infrastructure and things like that. But every niche and every business is going to be different. And I will say that real estate, and specifically real estate wholesale, is an entirely different animal. And being able to pivot within that is very crucial. So I've learned enough to be dangerous, but I really learn as I go with each experience. And every office runs things a little bit differently. You know, I have a blueprint. I have a regimen that I stick to, and I have to be somewhat malleable within different people's businesses that I work within. But, you know, if to me, it's kind of a recipe. And if you had the recipe to Mrs. Fields cookies, Mrs. Fields cookies would be coming out of your oven too. And so by putting in that recipe into these different businesses, I'm able to help them scale. And because I've got such a diverse background, I've made a lot of mistakes. And those mistakes are costly because we spend money to learn. And, you know, we celebrate our wins, but we learn from our losses. And I've learned a lot. So that being said, I'm able to tell people what to stay away from. Don't touch the hot plate. This one's not good. This is good. Stay focused on this. Don't have shiny object syndrome. And to be honest, I always find, I don't have my bottle of water here because I'm a little dry, but I always use it as a prop anyway. The bottleneck is always at the top. And I usually find that the biggest issues within any company sits at the C-suite or the owners. And you have to be willing to get out of your own way. You have to be able to hire good people to do good things. You know, just if you're grumpy cat, your company's grumpy cat. You know, so that kind of trickles down just in how you operate. And there's a lot of people with great business acumen that don't have a personality, that don't know how to keep things light and fun, that don't know about rewards and bonuses and spiffs and prizes and field trips and all these things that I call it sticky. It's a sticky factor. It keeps your reps and keeps your staff with you, because why would they go anywhere else? Yes, maybe they're offering a couple extra percentage points, but I went to the Bahamas last week, or I got to go drive Ferraris last week, or, you know, I got $100 bonus today for doing this many contracts, or whatever the case may be. You have to be willing to take care of your people and listen to them, because if you're not paying attention, those people are going to leave. And if you're not hearing to feedback on the lead quality or feedback on how your transaction coordinator is dealing with people, how do you fix it? And if you don't have experience in all those aspects either, it's very difficult to understand where your reps and your staff are coming from. So for me, the being able to know all these different niches and being able to know about kind of the things that I've been involved in my past, I'm able to talk to people with a lot of color, and I'm able to bring a lot of stories and a lot of, you know, things that people grasp onto, and I can make them make sense. There's a lot of high level stuff to real estate. And when you're talking to a seller, the most that they know about real estate is that they slept in a house last night. So trying to educate them on the process, you have to be willing to navigate and use stories to tell stories and get them to really understand. And transparency is so key in everything we do. It's real estate. There's no reason to pull punches. There's nothing nefarious that we do. So being transparent and making sure that the devil in the details is out of the way up front ensures smooth sailing moving forward. So, you know, for me, it's building rapport and having great conversations with people, building that network, because that seller you're working with, other people in their family, they have a house to sell too at some point. And you want to make that lasting impression so that they're going to send those people to you. It's the same with vendors. It's the same with you know, people that you're partnering on deals with. And a lot of the people that I partner with on deals are Avengers. They're very high net wealth individuals. And it gets me into some of these really, really big deals because they know that I can go in there and tell the story maybe better than they can. And they want me in that conversation. They want me to be part of the deal. And, you know, I'll tell two friends and they'll tell two friends and so on and so on. And, you know, the deal gets done.
I love that idea of storytelling, and even what you just said about, like, if you're, you used a different acronym, but like if you're negative Nancy, then your whole team's going to be negative Nancy, right?
100%.
And we just implemented for our company, Alora Homes, we implemented, we were using Traction and implementing the whole VTO and getting all that stuff done. But one of our core values is he's got it on the wall there, Jake. But one of our core values is having a growth mindset. And we chalked that up to always be learning. And we said, you know what, we got to read books with our team. This will be a great thing. If we can read 2 books a quarter as a team and just have bi-weekly check-ins, read a few chapters, what's going on, how have you been able to implement that? So we just started reading The Energy Bus by John Gordon.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think?
It's amazing. I mean, I've actually listened to the whole book at this point, but we were doing a 5-chapter check-in, right? Just the beginning. We wanted to get everyone on the same bus. So we got everybody, and it was honestly such a breakthrough experience for me as a business owner because, we got such positive feedback. Obviously, the book is about positive energy, and everyone on the team is already implementing it in different ways in their life, in the business itself. And they were so thankful, right? And so we're building a culture where we're encouraging them to grow and learn and bring positivity to not only the company, but into their personal lives. And we had one of our VAs from the Philippines who, I swear, every interaction I have with this girl, she's like a little robot, but she was breaking down. She started crying, telling us how just reading this book has now changed her life and how she interacts with her kid. And she's like, I know that I show up positively for my kid and not just put all of my energy in work. Right. And so I think it's so powerful, right?
And you just added to that sticky factor. You just made such an impact on her that she's a VA. She's going to work for tons of different companies over the course of her career, but she'll never forget this experience. And she's going to have a really hard time leaving it because of that sticky factor that you just implemented and changed her life. And, growing your company is one thing, but growing the people in your company, not just as workers, but as humans. Yeah, you can't compare to that. That's the biggest gift you can give somebody is human growth, personal growth. Wallet growth is a lot of fun, but if you don't like your job and it's toxic and you're not learning anything, you're just getting money. It's very easy to have shiny object syndrome and go somewhere where it's more fun or people are actually having life-changing experiences as opposed to just financial changes.
Yeah, well, I love that too because one of our goals that we put was if we meet all of our 1-year annual goals, that we're going to have an annual meeting in Bali so that our reps, our VAs from the Philippines can meet us in Bali. And that's where we'll have our annual meeting next year.
So where's the invite?
It's the experience, right, Forrest? We got to bring everybody to the Bahamas. But in this case, we got a bunch of VAs in the Philippines. So we said, we'll meet them in Bali.
That's amazing. I think that's fantastic. And I really hope that you reach that goal financially, of course, but also that's just awesome. What great team building. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So tell us, what do you think has been your biggest mistake so far in business or real estate? Maybe a particular deal that comes to mind or something where you're like, oh, I learned a lot of lessons from this one. I'd definitely go back and change that.
I'm constantly learning. I'm of the adage, the day I stop learning is the day I'm dead. I'm constantly soaking up different information. I'm constantly on the phone with other people in the space. And you go to seminars and you go to masterminds and everyone's showing, oh, this is my first yacht. This is my first island. This is my first Lambo. And that's great for hope, right? It shows people, oh, it can be done. But for me, I want to know, what were your hurdles and how'd you overcome them? And what did you learn from that? How'd you move past it? For me, again, knowledge is power, and learning how all the different states operate and the legalities within the different states is so crucial. It eliminates a lot of the guesswork. And sometimes you're not able to learn that stuff until you're in the thick of it and you're in the deep end of the pool on a contract in a new state, and you've got to learn quickly. But there's been so many deals where, and again, I use the term mistake very lightly because if you could look back on your life and change something, Would you? And how would that impact where you are today? And I kind of say that if you could go back and change something, maybe you're not happy with who you are today. Because for me, I've made mistakes, and but that's made me who I am today. And
Right.
I love the path that I'm on, and I'm in control of it. And it's allowed me to have a deeper perspective and understanding. And it helps me in my coaching and mentoring sessions to be able to give better guidance. But honestly, I think that the biggest mistake, and Jake's going to kick me in the ass, but was probably sticking with music as long as I did. Oh. And and I love music. If you meet somebody and you ask them, do you like music, and they say no, they're not human. Yeah. But for me, I teach it now. Hope is not a strategy. And being a musician, a professional musician, it's all centered around hope. And where I really started figuring out that I could do business. Hey, buddy.
My son just got home from school, so he's coming to say hi. Say hi, Forrest.
Hey, we got to meet at Topgolf. How are you, dude? That's right.
Good.
We're live right now on the internet. So do you want to say hello to everyone who's listening live?
Millions of people.
Hello. Hello. Thank you.
And I know none of your names.
Forrest?
That's perfectly fine. You're now famous, so they know you.
Yep.
What's the difference between an asset and a liability? Do you remember?
One puts money in your pocket, one takes money out of your pocket.
That's right.
Yes.
There you go.
Teaching them rich dad, poor dad. An asset puts money in your pocket.
And a liability takes money out of your pocket.
Nice.
Absolutely.
All right, let me get back to my pocket.
Can I eat something?
Later, dude.
Nutella or
yes, you can go make yourself a Nutella sandwich. Bye.
Oh, I haven't eaten yet today, so that sounds really good. But honestly, it was just I had all the right people in place. I had all the right entertainment attorneys and record labels and all that stuff. So I just figured as long as I showed up and did my job and everyone liked my music and liked what I was doing, that I would be the next Elvis or something, right? Mm-hmm. No, it's too much competition. And all along the line, my folks were very, very, very supportive. God love them. I lost them both last year. But it was brutal. But they were very supportive. But all along the line, my dad was a commercial developer and a commercial broker. And, he said, you've got to have a plan B. And the biggest mistake that I ever made was letting my ego get the best of me and say, nope, I'm going to make sure that plan A takes it home. And I screwed off when I was in my 20s, and I toured around, and I had a lot of fun. Right. So there's no part of me now that goes, gosh, I wish I wouldn't have missed out on those years. I had way too many of those years. But my dad all along was telling me, listen, you should get your real estate license, and you should have real estate in your back pocket. And to me, real estate meant kind of a blue suede shoe realtor in an office, fighting over deals, being catty, having wine hour, and that wasn't for me at all. Right. And it wasn't really, honestly, until I got involved with Tarek and started being around a lot of real estate investors that I realized that real estate there's a whole nother side to real estate than just the transactional part of working with a buyer or a seller, and that you can really honestly create generational wealth in real estate. And so I didn't even start doing my marketing career until I was 30. So when I was 30, I really, kind of picked up my big boy pants and said, I got to go to work. So all through my 20s, I screwed off. And, had I gotten a jump start on my life, there's no telling where it would be today. But now I've got to play catch up, and I've got to pour as much as I can into the opportunity I have left. And I'm 44 now, and I really don't want to work past 50 if I can help it. I'm always going to be working as far as, making money but as far as a grind is concerned, people ask me a lot about work-life balance, and, I'm working really hard now so that I can live really well later, and find that freedom. So I don't have the best day-to-day or, work weekend, life balance, right now, but it's because I've taken that choice to really pour myself into business, because I made the mistake of screwing off all in my 20s and having hope be my strategy, and hoping that the music would take off, and it didn't for legal reasons, but that's probably the biggest mistake I ever made, was not, they say carpe diem, right? Seize the day. Not really taking advantage of the life that we have that's livable. And, when we get to be of a certain age, we move slower, we think slower. We want to be slower because, we've put in a lot of years. And I don't want to be a 70-year-old greeter at Walmart.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to be working and grinding. And so had I gotten started earlier, I'd probably have a little bit less stress on my plate today. But I put that stress on myself because I feel like I'm always playing catch up. And so if there was one thing that I could maybe change, it would be to fix the fact that I got started so late. I feel like that's probably my biggest mistake. But as far as deals are concerned, I've had a lot of people on my teams that have made mistakes in overpromising. And, overpromising and under delivering just to get a contract. Contracts don't pay the bills. Closed escrow does.
Yep.
And if you're not setting the deal up properly from the very beginning and being transparent, I make sure that everybody that anybody talks to understands that we're a business and we have to make money. If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. If we don't align, that's perfectly fine. We can part as friends, but I've got to be able to make some money in this deal. And in that explanation of explaining that to a seller, when you come in with a cash offer, which is going to be a lower offer, I hate the term lowball because we're not trying to steal these properties from people, but it does have to be fair, and it has to be understood that it's fair because I'm in a business. And explaining all of those things to them when you come in with that, say, 60% of ARV minus repairs offer, they're not giving you a middle finger saying, "Fuck off, where'd you come up with that?" They're much more understanding, and they say, "Wow, that's lower than I expected, but could we maybe move it up to this number? Would that still allow you to make money?" And now they're advocating for you to make money to put the deal together because you've been so transparent and so honest. So that's one thing that I've definitely learned that have been mistakes in the past of sales teams just trying to get that contract done too quickly, not really explaining things. So don't make that mistake if you're listening. Make sure that you over-explain everything. And to be perfectly honest, the highest conversion ratio that I have on any of my sales teams, I manage 13 teams right now and a total of about 52 acquisitions reps. And the ones with the longest phone calls have the highest close ratio because they're taking the time to explain everything. And when you take that amount of time, the seller can hear your thought process. They can hear whether you're being sincere and honest and real, or you're just trying to get through it. And when they hear your sincerity and your knowledge and your experience, their shoulders start to drop and they start to feel more comfortable with you. And it builds more rapport and a more lasting impression, and which builds trust. So when you come in with that offer, they trust it. So just don't make that mistake. And another mistake that I've gone through is in marketing, listening to my clients. And what I mean by that now is listening to the owners and the C-level positions that I work with, and knee-jerk reactions to marketing expense or knee-jerk reactions to marketing performance. And that comes down to another education process. You have to have studyable data before you make any changes in your marketing, whether you're doing, digital marketing on Google with PPC, or you're using Bing, or you're doing Facebook or YouTube ads. You have to be spending enough to get enough studyable data, and you have to do it for a long enough period of time to get that data back to be able to steer the ship and navigate and make good decisions, where to chew the fat, where to double down, et cetera. So, you can spend a small amount of money for a long time to get that data, or you can spend a whole lot of money for a shorter amount of time to get that same data back. I remember Tarek decided that we wanted to do Snapchat and TikTok campaigns. And we wanted to go hard and heavy and get that data back quickly. So we spent about $90,000 a month for 3 months straight on Snapchat and TikTok to see how it would work and really get aggressive, and made a lot of agent relationships, which were fantastic, because with agents, I always ask them, what do you have and what do you need? And it leads to, buy boxes on their buyers. It leads to pocket listings for me. But what I didn't get is any kind of seller leads. I mean, wouldn't you know it, 12-year-olds doing the floss dance don't have a house to sell. So, but I learned that very quickly. And that's another one of those hot plates that I can tell people to stay away from if that's what they're targeting. So, making mistakes, again, I said it earlier, we learn from our losses. So I don't know that necessarily mistakes are a bad thing if you're trying to grow a long-term lasting business. Mistakes can give us that education we need to never touch the hot plate again. It can give us that education on where to double down. So I oftentimes welcome mistakes. I think it's a learning experience.
Yeah. And I think that kind of ties into one of my favorite quotes right now, just being in, I'm kind of in your shoes where Not to say that I've done any of the awesome and amazing things that told us about in your intro, but I'm 30 right now. I'm just getting started. The wheels are starting to spin, and in the majority of rooms, everybody's like, "Oh man, you're getting into this so young. You got your whole life ahead of you. This is great. You're going to be awesome." But I kind of feel the same way as you. Is like, if I had gotten started at 23, things would be very different by now. But one of my favorite quotes right now, and this was from I think Alex Hormozy is where I first heard it, but it was like failing forward.
Yep.
And like making that mistake, and then it's almost like welcomed at this point because I know I'm gonna fail forward with it. So I completely agree. And then I just wanted to kind of have you seen The Butterfly Effect, whether you like the movie or not?
Yes, I have.
I mean,
Sure.
that's all I was thinking about when you were kind of describing, your 20s and what that would, have done for you if you had gotten started earlier. So I think
I know, right? Isn't that amazing to think about it in those terms? You bring up the butterfly effect, like, I mean, we all kind of fantasize about what the world is really like and dimensions and all this kind of weird stuff that people talk about, conspiracies, Robert Kiyosaki. I love Robert Kiyosaki. He was in our office a couple of weeks ago to do Cody's podcast. And I'm in one of our podcast rooms here at our campus. We have 3, Cody's studio, this more intimate studio here. And then we have a green screen studio as well. But Robert Kiyosaki is a trip, and we all got to go out to dinner, and he's amazing. But if there was a parallel universe, and with the path that I took doing rock music, as opposed to going into business, is there a parallel universe? And what the hell does that look like? I mean, it'd be amazing. But you brought up failing forward, and it's funny. If I was in my office right now, I have a sign on my wall that says "Fail Forward," and
awesome.
That's how I talk to all new acquisitions and dispositions reps. I tell them, listen, we want to figure out where the speed bumps are early on, so that we can fail forward and we can hit those, figure out the workaround, and continue to press on. And again, knowledge is power. The more you know, you can stay away. If I told you, hey, get here to my house really fast, and I didn't tell you there's speed bumps along the way, you're going to lose some fillings when you hit that first one and your head hits the top roof of the car. But next time you come over to my house, you're going to know not to hit those speed bumps. So again, learning where those hurdles are and knowing how to navigate around them or work them into your pitch. I like to know that people are going to have an obstacle or a hurdle with something I'm saying, and I cut them off at the pass. And I say, now I know you're probably thinking this, and you're probably questioning that. And I just want to rest your mind at ease with this and that and the other. And they go, I was thinking that. I know. So now does it make sense? And they say, yeah, because I've already hit those speed bumps. And people go, whoa, wait, I got a question on that. So the next conversation I have, I say, now I know you probably have this question. Right. So, but failing forward is, and we talk about mistakes, and that's what the podcast is about. And if you make those mistakes, just make sure you learn from them. Don't wallow, don't get in your head, don't kick yourself, don't kick cans, don't kick rocks. Make sure that you apply that into your business. And oftentimes it's not just, there's a very, very small parallel between business and personal, depending if you take that leap back and you kind of have a greater perspective, because you can navigate the same way with your business partners as you do with your spouse or your partners in your personal life. And it really gives you perspective on how to talk about things within your personal life and your personal relationships, and make sure that you're airing out those hurdles and those speed bumps. And it's in business and in personal. And if you can create that kind of ecosystem that's based off of, learning from your mistakes and applying it for the next go around, that's what really helps you grow as a human and as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I feel like that motto of like, fail forward and learn from my mistakes, it just goes against our traditional like education system, right? Like you don't want to raise your hand and have the wrong answer when you're a kid, right? Like that's a mistake.
Right.
Like just tell you no, right? But at the same time, just going back to what I said earlier about you having like the mindset of like an actor or a musician, like there are no mistakes. Like you're learning from all of that, right? Like what you think is a mistake of hitting a wrong note in music could be like the most greatest sound anyone's ever heard. So like you're more like adventurous and like have the mindset of like to explore and try new things. So that's why I was even curious on like how you think that mindset might have come and sculpted your business thinking, because that is what it comes down to, fail forward. And it's like, knowledge is power if you take the action behind it, if you implement it, right? I said this the other day, but I know so many people in all of these different learnings. There's so many different gurus out there that are going to teach you how to do this, teach you how to do that, teach you how to do this. And I know people that have signed up and spent hundreds of $1,000s to be a part of 5 different courses, and they're learning, but they never actually put a property under contract for us. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't
No, no, no.
put it under contract and you don't take the action to go along with that learning or that knowledge, what are you spending your money on? And like you said,
I just had the same conversation with Dominic Wood last weekend at Avengers when we were talking about all the people that show up for masterminds and seminars and invest into it. And they say, hey, I went to the seminar, so I must be good. I listened. But if you don't implement what you're doing, and it's not just what you learned to implement, it's the network and the relationships that you build during that time. If you're not leaning on that network and working with those people, then all you did was show up for the write-off of the seminar, the mastermind, or what have you, and pop your collar and say, great, I'm part of a party. It doesn't do anything. It all comes down to the implementation. And really, for me, it's about accountability. Because a lot of the things that I do, I'm holding people very accountable. So I do one-on-one coaching with people a lot, and I'll have a meeting every week with them, or an hour-long meeting twice a week with them. And I give them homework. And the very next week, if they don't have that done, I may not be able to coach you, because what are we doing? We're just talking. We're just hanging out. And, that's not really, it's not advantageous. It's not helpful. And that doesn't drive the needle forward. So there has to be implementation. There has to be accountability, and you have to hold yourself to the fire. And there's a lot of people out there that are still on W-2s, and they don't want to switch over to this being a full-time gig. And I tell them, listen, do it, because you've got no other recourse. You've got no other way to go. You're a cinder block on a gas pedal. You've got your foot to the fire. You have to get this done, and you will. You have to hold yourself accountable, set yourself with KPI. But implementation is probably the biggest weakness that a lot of people have. They gather this information, they read the books, but they don't have that alter their life or change their course at all. So then what are you doing? You're just wasting time reading. You're just wasting your time going to seminars. So it really does come down to implementation and accountability.
Taking action. I love it. I feel like a light bulb went off inside your head, Jake. What did you have to add to that?
Honestly, I mean, I'm just absorbing. I think, Forrest, you've been an incredible guest in all the insights that you've been able to share, and your mistakes and everything. Anybody that's listening to this, hopefully the same takeaway can be said for you. So really, I'm grateful for your experience and your ability to share that with us today.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. And Jake, I'm always a resource too. So if ever you have a question, there's no silly questions. I may give a silly answer, but I love working with people and helping folks kind of navigate through tough waters sometimes. And I admire you for really kind of kickstarting and getting things really jumping for yourself, and just seize the opportunity. Life is short. We never know how short. So just make sure that you're constantly pushing. And for those of you out there that are watching, don't try to take your foot off the gas pedal. Be a cinder block on a gas pedal and just barrel through as much as you can, and absorb, learn, implement, hold yourself accountable. Have meetings with the people that you work with so you know where their head's at. A lot of partners get together. They have the same vision, but they don't continue meeting together, and they completely end up going in opposite directions, to the point where they find out they're on completely opposite ends of the spectrum, and the partnership fails. So just make sure that you're constantly in tune with everything that you're doing, and hold yourself accountable, and really spend your time wisely to capitalize on as much business and revenue as you possibly can while you're young, while you're able, and while it's fun and exciting.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to wrap this up with one last question, just because I have you here and I can make it a little bit more personal for us, right? I told you earlier that Jake and I have been in business for less than a year. Our marketing channel so far has been mostly cold outreach through SMS. We tried a little PPC, but I think we either hired the wrong company or didn't really know what we were doing. Or like you said, maybe didn't spend enough money to get some good data. Just more on a personal note for us, if you were a consultant for Allura Homes right now, maybe what direction would you push us in as far as marketing? Do we stay more digital with Facebook ads and try and learn the Facebook and the PPC side, or hire someone to do that, or go a little bit more traditional with some direct mail aside from what we're doing? and SMS?
So direct mail is going to be a long game. It's always a long game. Typically, you don't start to see conversions until the 7th or 8th mailer that goes out, and it can be expensive, especially if you have a large targeted area. But direct mail is effective. It's just a long game. Yep. Cold outreach is also a long game. SMS does work really well because people are reluctant to answer the phone or receive a phone call from a number they don't know. iPhone's really great at saying that it's a scam caller, scam likely. So, SMS is a good way to get through, but with all the regulations and 10 DLC compliances that you have to do, you have to put stop to opt out. And it feels very robotic. So that's a hindrance. I mean, I'm dating myself, but just not too long ago, 4 years ago, you could the compliance issues weren't there in text messaging. So I would send a message to a seller and I would say Marie with a question mark, and they'd say, who is this? So I knew they were alive and breathing, and then I'd call them and they'd answer. And it was so easy. Now you've got to go through, you got to say your company name, you got to say that what you're doing, you got to have a stop to opt out, and it feels very robotic, but it still gets the job done, especially if you can build an opt-in list and then text those people from an opt-in list, because then you don't have to have a lot of that 10 DLC compliance, coming in as a factor. But I will always say that Google Ads, and doing PPC on Google is always going to be your number one source to get to a distressed seller. And with me and what I do, I have everything segmented out with cohesion. So if they type in, how do I sell an inherited home? They're going to find an ad copy that says, we're the inherited home specialist. Click here to submit your inherited home, which is going to take them to a landing page for inherited homes. And it says, enter your inherited home here. Then that hits my CRM. And in the CRM, the search term is captured and it's in there. So when the rep sees that lead come in, they're going to hop on the phone and they're going to use their inherited home opening script. We're the inherited home specialists. I understand you have an inherited home to sell. We work on inherited homes, and that's what we love to do. Same thing with pre-foreclosures, same thing with tired landlords, same things with tax delinquents. So it's all very segmented out and it's very cohesive because that seller is only talking to cash offer people. And it's a very generic statement. So when they talk to somebody on my teams, they go, oh my gosh, wow, I really found somebody who specializes in what I'm doing. All the other stuff is noise. I'm just going to work with this company. They specialize in exactly what I'm looking for. But, I do a 1-2 punch between Google Ads and Bing Ads and Facebook. And the issue with Facebook is, during an election, let's say, all you're going to find on a Facebook wall are ads from Biden and Trump and Biden and Trump, and that's it. You can't get any cash home, anything to sell distressed sellers in there. You can't squeeze it in. However, on Google, if you look for how do I sell a house to a cash buyer, you're not going to find anything about Biden or Trump. It's all just going to be those terms. So it weathers the storms. It's good for holidays. It's good for elections. It's always working. And you can really hyper target who you're looking for. You can get right down to very specific metros and very specific areas. In targeting those areas and with the proper search terms and negative search terms, meaning you have a set of terms that you don't want people to find you for. We used to knock out like, is Tarek married? Is Tarek in a relationship? Right? I don't want somebody calling in to presumably sell me their house who just wants to know if Tarek's single or not. So those were all negative search terms to make sure that we're getting right through to the distressed sellers. There's also something you can do as far as TV and radio. I do a lot of TV and radio. Okay. And a lot of people stay away from it because it's so expensive, but it's really not. If you go through a lot of the local cable companies, and their data sets are amazing. They ran your credit to sign up for internet or for cable. So they have your credit profile. They know if you're failing. They certainly know if you're behind on the bill, right? So they can actually go in and target per household. So if Jake and I live next door to each other and Jake is killing it and I'm failing, we're watching the exact same TV show at the exact same time. When it cuts to a commercial break, he's going to see an ad for a BMW dealership and I'm going to see an ad to sell my house.
Wow.
So I didn't know really hyper targeted. Yeah. And it's very inexpensive. You can go into a certain DMA, a certain metropolitan area and spend like $6,000 a month. And you'll get in front of 10,000 people to get that out there. And those leads, you're now in their living room. And I know it sounds creepy, but that's their ecosystem. Now they're feeling very comfortable with you. Plus, a lot of people out there get a little starstruck and they're happy to talk to somebody who's on TV or happy to, talk to somebody who their boss is on TV, and it moves the needle and it helps with the credibility. And they know that, hey, if they're on TV, they're doing something right because they're making money to be on TV, and they're only making money because people like their service. So if de facto, this is where I want to work. And you can go in on TV and radio and you can pick up something called remnant ads that are very inexpensive. And those are a lot of the time slots that the big companies, Pizza Hut, Toyota, they don't go after. And they're just leftover airspace. And you can go in and buy these bookended commercials where, at the very top of the commercial break, you're like, hey, I'm Forrest. I want to show you how to sell your house for cash. Stay tuned. It's 5 seconds. Now it goes to Pizza Hut and Toyota and Domino's. And then at the very end, hey, how's it going? I hope you enjoyed your commercial break. If you want to sell your house for cash, I'll buy it. Go to blah, 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 blah. Call my phone number. Da, 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 da. We'll talk to you in a minute. You just own that entire commercial space.
Wow.
And those other 30-second people are spending tens of thousands of dollars for it. And you spend a couple of $100 and you just own the entire commercial break. So there's a lot of very creative ways you can use TV and radio to get through to these folks. Radio, you only want to air it during high traffic times, people going to work, people coming home from work, because they're paying attention. I've done billboards and I've done bus stops. The one thing I haven't done, though, is bandit signs. I've never done that. That's a small billboard.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of ways to get through to people if you know where the traffic is. And if you can tap into where the traffic is, whether it's on a freeway or it's on Google,
Yep.
you can get a lot of activity and you get a lot of leads. And from those leads, you get opportunities. From those opportunities, you get contracts. From the contracts, you get closed escrow. And with those KPI sets, you can really work backwards so that you know, okay, to make this amount of money per transaction. So I need to do X amount of transactions to live above this amount of money per month. So that means I need to have this many leads coming in from this source under this key search term, this source under this key search term. And it's all in the data to be able to steer it.
Yeah, no, that's really, really great advice. We've been playing more and more with that on actually setting our marketing budget and really kind of backtracking it, like you were just saying, right? How much do we need to spend in these different areas? Curious to know if you're using geofencing, if you've
absolutely. Again, being hyper targeted, there's an area in San Diego called Encinitas Ranch, and it's actually a part of the city of Encinitas within the county of San Diego. There's a lot of money in Encinitas Ranch. I target Encinitas Ranch search terms because I don't care if anybody even in just Encinitas itself knows who I am. I want those people in Encinitas Ranch to think that I am the only person that buys and sells homes in Encinitas Ranch.
Wow.
And wouldn't you know it, I get a lot of leads from, right? So you can get very, very hyper targeted and really go after a very small segment of people. Again, I said in the beginning, sometimes it's all about your target audience. And it's not just about scaling your sales team or throwing more money into marketing. It's about being surgical. And the more surgical you can get with your advertising dollars, the better quality leads you have coming in. I'd rather have 2 leads come in a week that are going to give me $100,000, conversion, than 200 leads and burn out my sales team trying to find a needle in a haystack. So, and having to scale my sales team to even handle that amount of leads without them absolutely losing their hair and going gray early. So, it really comes down to surgical targeted marketing, but I definitely think you should do PPC. I have a lot of resources on my website for those of you guys that are out there that can kind of help you with a lot of this stuff. I know that Bateman Collective is one of my resources on there. You can click on that link. It'll take you to a special landing page where you can get linked up with Brandon. Brandon and I work very closely together. We're actually coming out with a podcast. And he has opened up the kimono for me and shown me everything on his back end. And I've shared a lot of stuff with him, and he's having great successes with his clients. So that would be somebody that I would definitely look into. But over and above that, there's a lot of resources on my website for your audience to go in there and really help, build your credit, your business credit. So you have $500,000 in interest-free credit lines. You can go and you can make some costly mistakes. It's okay. You're going to fail forward. And you can go in and get your credit profile so you have operating money and you're not, worried about your car payment because you've got to hit your Google payment. So that enables a lot of help. And but I definitely think PPC and Google AdWords is a great place to get started. Bing ads, there's not as much traffic on Bing, but it's also less cost. And if there's 10 people searching on Bing, I want them to find me.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you. All right. So your website for anybody who's listening, tell them where to find you.
Yeah, you can just go to forrestblackburn.com. There's 2 R's in Forrest and Blackburn, just like it sounds. So it's forrestblackburn.com. If you want to book a call and hop on a coaching call with me, you can do that through there. Again, there's a lot of resource links on there. If you are looking for a coach or a mentor, whether it be for 3 months or 6 months or until we hit $1 million a month, I can be in your corner. So I'm available. I have a lot of information, contracts, SOPs, everything you need to scale your business without making costly mistakes, and kind of cut the corner and not have to learn as much. If I can supply it to you, you can actually go a little bit faster, and I'll hold you accountable. And so all that stuff's available. It's all on the website. So I'm happy to help, and I'm always here, and I'm happy to serve.
SOP, those are my 3 favorite letters.
Standard operating procedures.
Yes,
SOP is his favorite, but it's so funny because we have so many VAs, again, from the Philippines that we were talking about how like logical they are, right? Like they're like little computers. They will do exactly what you tell them to. So one of our core values was creativity, and our slogan is think outside the SOP. Sometimes you got to be creative, guys, and go a little bit outside the SOP. So the SOP is there, but it's also just a guideline.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Forrest, it's been amazing having you on. Thank you again. ForrestBlackburn.com for anybody listening who wants to get in touch. And we truly, truly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on, guys. It's been an honor, and I hope everybody got a little bit of value. So thanks so much.
All right.